I'm James, TW, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm 26 and an amateur table tennis player.
And I'm Laura, I'm 25, and I'm actually his manager, so we're working together now. And I play table tennis kind of like semi-professionally for 10 years, more or less, back in Spain.
I'm speechless, holding back the tears in my eyes. You look so beautiful by my side. I can't breathe, I can't speak, can't believe what
So we met at a table tennis class. I had just moved to East London. I wanted to do something fun and get out and maybe meet some friends or something. And I found this class in Euston, and Laura was the coach of the class.
I was the third backup coach actually, and it was the first thing I did when I moved back to London. And my mate couldn't do this class and he was like, can you do it for me? And I didn't want to, but I was like, yeah, sure. And that's it.
It was a small class. There was probably 8 of us, I think.
Yeah, I think there were 7 kind of.
Right, and that's important. There was an odd number of participants, right? And that meant, well, when I walked in, the first thing that Laura said to me was, "Are you the singer?"
I only saw James, the T and the W, and
Right.
I was like, it's him.
And she came over, she said, "Are you the singer?" And I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" Because I had like a cap on and a mask and everything, so I was quite impressed. And then you just said, "I saw your name on the call sheet," and I was like, "Cool." And then this is the thing about there being 7 people, was I was the only one who came on my own. So it meant that in the first exercises, it was Laura and I who got to play together, basically. And I remember, it's funny looking back now, because obviously Laura's a way better player than me, but in the first drill, like, she was kind of like a little ropey on some shots, and I was thinking, oh, not that bad, but I was thinking like, oh, I must be better than I think I am, kind of thing. But she was just a bit nervous.
I was so nervous. Yeah. I was shaking. Yeah.
But we started talking whilst playing, basically, and then at the end of the class, I hadn't asked anyone out in like 7 years. Like, it had been a long time, so I was very nervous, but I wanted to see Laura again. So I asked her if she did any like private lessons, which there's probably a better line. But you lied, and she said yes when she didn't. So, and then we went for a walk, and that's kind of when we started dating. I love activity-based friend dates or us dates. So I think for that, it's perfect. We also were talking earlier about how everyone thinks they're better than they are at table tennis. So everyone kind of wants to play anyway, and I think most people can play to a certain degree. So I think it's a great social sport. It's definitely being more accepted in the UK.
I believe that what makes bounce really good for socializing is that it's not an aggressive environment when you're meeting someone for the first time as well. Like, if you're on a first date, it's a nice icebreaker.
On our first date, we went for dinner, and whenever there was like a small silence, I was kind of really terrified that was going to turn into a big silence. But when you're playing a sport like this, or just a game, as long as you're either a gracious winner or a good loser, it's definitely more comfortable with the gaps in the conversation.
And there's always drinks as well.
Yes, true.
So that's nice.
I won! I won! How did I win?
Woo! So I started when I was like 13. I started with my brother, and very quickly it became my whole life. Like, all my friends were table tennis players. I became a coach, I became an umpire, and I think I used to do like 10 to 15 hours a week of training. And yeah, it was all competitions on the weekends, national competitions, national league, and my whole world and my whole life went around table tennis. I just did that.
I've played it for as long as I can remember, with my dad and with my granddad. So we kind of had a outdoor table that we'd get out during the summer, or sometimes in the winter with rain, and we'd play all afternoon kind of thing. And then if we went on holiday and there was a table somewhere, we'd play. But that is basically it. She's come from a very professional background, and I've come from a very unprofessional background, which means I think we have different strengths when it comes to playing in different environments. And then since we've been together as well, I've always wanted to see Laura compete again, because I never got to see her compete when she was younger. But you always talk about missing that a little bit. So we have kind of occasionally gone to clubs where there are teams and things like that. And I've tried to convince her to get back into it. I think we've also spoken about competing together.
Yeah,
Obviously, that was
fun.
way better than me, but it would be fun to play like doubles together, and so to play together would either be great for us or the end of our marriage, basically. So we'll see. Yeah.
It is a very difficult sport, and it challenges you in every way, like physically, emotionally, mentally, and I just like the challenge, and I like how many hours you have to put in to just see a tiny bit of results when you play. I don't know, even though you're alone playing and it feels sometimes like you're playing against yourself, you never play alone. There's always a team around you, and there's always someone giving you advice on what to do. The strategy is one of my favorite things as well, how to like get the ball where you want it to be. That is magic.
I think my favorite thing is just the memories that I have around the sport. With my granddad now, he can't really play table tennis, but when I think of our relationship, so much of it is built around the game. And then with my dad as well, and holidays, just whilst you would play for hours every day as training, if I got the chance with my best friend or with my family, we would play for hours just for fun. And I think it brings me and my family together, and that's what I love about it. When Laura used to work here, that is the device that you used to pick up all the balls. And I loved coming and just like grabbing it and getting all the balls off the floor. It would be like 1 o'clock in the morning every night for what, 6 days a week?
Who's the better player?
He's so good under pressure, I'm not. So I think that is a really good strength. And he's just like intuitively, he knows where the ball's going to go, so he's always waiting for it. And it's really difficult to catch him off guard.
It's so impressive just to watch you play, because, I mean, obviously you put years into the sport, but to see anyone who's put that much time in just play what their sport is, it's like a pleasure. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Who is the worst loser?
Yes, that is you.
It is me.
We said this today about the game. We said if there's a question about who's the worst loser, it's Laura.
Definitely me.
She gets so competitive and so in her own head, whereas all my years playing literally on grass in the garden means you kind of just have to like...
You're just a very nice person.
Thank you. That sounded so sarcastic, but thank you.
Who's the better drunk player?
That would be me. Because you trained in perfect conditions where it's quiet. Because when we came to Bounce to play once, she told me that one of the first times she said, "Oh, I can't hear the ball." And I was like, that's the most ridiculous excuse I've ever heard. But for an actual player, that is a real thing.
It is true. Like, we get the stimulus comes first to our brain. If it's hearing, then seeing it. So I do need to hear the ball to kind of guess the spin and how far from me it is.
Our first ever game that we actually played against each other wasn't in the class. It was at a house party. And I definitely chose the timing well, because Laura and I had a few drinks. I could tell she was a little bit tipsy. So we played and I actually won. And her flatmate, I will never forget this moment, because her flatmates like couldn't believe it. Because I think my confidence was sky high and you couldn't see the ball, basically. And then later on, I did feel bad, because I think you're not a good loser, as we've established. And then later, when Laura was like, sober again, I asked her for another game and she scolded me like it was a humiliation. So
it had to be done.
It had to be done, yeah. But this is another thing. When we went to go and watch table tennis, there's such etiquette around when you cheer and when you don't. So in backyard table tennis, or ping pong rather, if you hit the edge of the table, that is like the best shot you can possibly do, right? But in real table tennis, that is like, I'm sorry, right? So we went to go and watch Laura's friend compete. And every time he hit the side, I would jump up and be like, yeah, what a shot. And no one else, everyone disgraced.
No, nearly. Angle. That'll do.
I think what I'd say is that when we talked about going to a club, I was pretty intimidated being someone who's not from a table tennis background. But when we went, there was a lot of like beginners there too. I think it's easy just to presume that it's going to be professionals and people who would make the experience not very fun for a beginner. But I had a really good time. So if anyone's thinking about going to a club and they haven't played that much, I was surprised at how many new players there are.
And in terms of Going on a date and playing table tennis, I would say that it's a good test. It's a way of knowing things about the other person's character that you wouldn't know in normal conversations. For instance, how competitive are they? How good are they at losing or not?
Go. Damn, I went for a big shot. I'll play.
Table tennis is the winner. It brought us together and is pushing us apart slowly sometimes. No, you deserve that.
I can breathe, I can speak, can't believe what I'm seeing. I'm speechless.
Thanks for watching the video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Go out and play table tennis and find your wife or husband. And if you would like to listen to some of my new music, it's coming out very soon, so go and check it out. Thank you.